Warframe for the longest time to me looked like these crazy sci-fi animation shorts you see all over Twitter and TikTok, where it's very aesthetically and visually appealing but holds little substance in the combat and gameplay. And as a matter of fact, me and my friend group who played Black Ops 3 Zombies together said it looks just like Anthem from an outside perspective at least, and that's obviously something you never want to be compared to as a looter shooter style game. But as of late, my current games have grown stale or just gone completely belly up, basically. So I decided to give Warframe a try for the first time. And as it is December 2024, I wish I could go back in time and smack some sense into younger me, who let the appearances tell the story of what is really a very fun, if a bit grindy, hero or Tenno-esque game. In this video, I'm going to be covering my first 6 or so hours of playtime and what that experience has been like up to this point. The TLDR is the chaos Warframe possesses is brilliant and engaging, and the systems are expertly implemented to keep you playing as long as possible. But for the longer version, where I'm going to be giving my agreeable and some disagreeable takes on what the game has been like early on, let's get right into it. Alright, so I usually like to add some sort of structure to the order of topics I discuss, depending on the pacing of the example clips I might show, or a combination of the contrasting I do with other games as well. And while I'll still be doing that to some degree, this is mostly going to be a gung-ho or off-the-cuff type of, I guess, first impressions, because I'm only 4 hours into a game that likely requires hundreds to fully experience its core mechanics, or to understand why design elements were made the way they are. It would be pointless to critique something that I have not much understanding of. So rather than viewing it in that way, this is sort of a first impressions or like a early on impressions from a newbie who's never played this game before. That logic doesn't work for everything though, and I'll now transition into the first agreeable point I have as the reference is the gameplay. After playing with my settings for about an hour, I quickly got underway with the basic functions, and almost immediately I knew this was a game suited for fast-paced, high-octane Doom-like encounters. Not quite on the level of Doom obviously, but the smooth dodge rolls you can combo with like the backflips and front flips, the momentum-based gliding you can do. I don't know what it's really called, but it feels so smooth. I mean, there's a certain feel to this game that I don't think I've seen put in any other game, and that's a good thing. Oftentimes companies like to design the combat for attention span, and you can definitely see it in any MMO game released since like 2020, but you gotta be a crack addict to keep up with that amount of mess and numbers they throw on the screen, and it's not organized at all in the least bit. In Warframe, with the accessibility options being so dynamic, you can tone down or increase certain HUD elements that would otherwise distract you from the main like combat sequences. And that's something that I really appreciated while trying to learn the game. It didn't feel overwhelming in like the least bit. And I think a lot of games can learn from the controlled chaos that this game operates on. It's the reason I avoid games like The Division. Instead of the games being slowly introduced to you, like The Division 1 and 2, the mechanics of combat and the tools you'll get to further improve on that experience, they throw it at you all at once. And Warframe does this particular system incredibly well. Before I move on, I've only played the Excalibur Tenno, and the primary and secondary I used was the Paris and Kunai. My dual katana things I'm using is the Deck Nikana, and I'm pretty sure you get this basically at the start of the game. I've just been grinding and leveling up, and they feel really good, so I'm in no rush to try other Tenno or weapons just yet. I'm going to keep grinding what I'm doing right now, and then in a little bit in the future, once I got my feet under me, I'll try other things out. Next, I'll talk about the itemization of materials, upgrades, the marketplace, as well as the user interface, because I feel like these are basically the same things aside from a few key differences that I'll clarify. To put it bluntly, this game has that recognizable essence of a mobile game, one that displays big boxes and often hovers the description to the right of your cursor. This is actually not a bad addition to the game, as you can see here. Something like salvage, needing to craft blueprints you get listed on the 3 locations below in case you're running low on them, is a really good detail. It's a small detail, I know, but I can't recall how many MMOs I played where I need to find materials to craft a certain weapon or upgrade my armor set. And it's almost RNG based depending on your luck of what world state you load into. You have your search button in the category's top left, which admittedly should be columned next to the sort button, at least in my opinion. But that sort of transitions into what I think about the game's user interface, and I think it's really good, with one minor drawback, but you can make an argument if this is really a drawback or just a nitpick. First though, I have to say I really like the camera panning when you move around in the UI. I know this isn't the first game I've played with this kind of system, but I can't remember what other game it was from. I just know there was a game that did it like this. But yeah, when on one side of the screen, it slightly tilts as you move your cursor to the other side of the screen. And I don't know, man, it activated some sort of positive serotonin response in my brain. And with the clean futuristic menu aesthetic, I'm really digging this part of the UI. The only drawback would be the menu responsiveness. It's very lacking. And what I mean by that is, say you want to click on something in this game, you most likely need to have prior knowledge that that prompt you're about to click actually leads somewhere. Multiple times, I click on something that I think will give me more info, or I just want to interact with it in some way. And not only does your X or A, or I'm not sure whatever it is on PC, not only does that prompt never show up, so like it never shows you what the prompt is. The interact prompt, it doesn't do anything. It's never showed up, for at least for me in my game. Now thankfully this isn't a big deal, seeing as you'll know where to go and where everything is at maybe the 10 to 15 hour mark. Again, I don't know, I'm just guessing, but at some point your brain will just map out the UI and controls, so it's not that big a deal. But it has been a difficulty to distinguish actual prompts from the information and just random plain text you might see. Again, not a huge deal, but it is one of the troubles I've had while playing the game. Other than that, the user interface and itemization and inventory and things like that have been spot on, and I wish other studios or design teams take note of some of the things they've done here and make improvements to their own UIs in the future. And if you're still watching, I just decided to switch it up because I realized that most things I've experienced so far in this game don't fall in a pros or cons, agreeable or disagreeable list. As I said, I don't know, I was just trying to stand out, be special or some shit. But anyways, I'm just going to be giving my beginner thoughts, which is what I should have really done in the first place, things I'm hoping to see or explore in the future. I've come to the realization that almost always with these type of games, it takes me 50 hours to crack it, I guess, to really see that whatever problems are apparent. Because early on, I'm understanding the game first and foremost before I started to pick it apart. So instead of just scrapping the first part, which I recorded yesterday, I'm just going to give my rookie insight on how the game has played for me so far. The enemy types was the biggest thing I wanted to discuss because, at least as far as I can tell, it seems to be pretty diverse and expansive as far as variety and types. My first few missions, I fought 6 or 7 different enemies, from the grunt guys to the shield guys to the snipers, one that deployed spider bomb things, some others I can't think of right now. And it got even more diverse in the first open area I went to. There I encountered all sorts of elites and these huge ass dinosaur looking creatures that I simply couldn't with yet. And I can tell I'm only scratching the surface when it comes to enemies. Not because I faced them that were very easy, but because the objectives themselves were very easy. I have a feeling that the more difficult the objectives are to complete the mission, the greater the threat I'm going to face later on down the line. And I'm excited to see what they have for me. And one last thing before I wrap up this video with my all over the place impressions of Warframe. This soundtrack is so fucking sick. Like, I'm not even kidding, dude. Whoever composed the score for this game needs a raise. Just listen to this. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling about Warframe at the moment. It's most likely my new obsession for the next few weeks. After that, if I feel very differently about the game or just want to give my thoughts on it as an update, then we'll see. But anyways, let me hop off this so that I can actually go play the game again because I'm itching to just play it right now. I'll see you next time.